This particular topic we're going to cover is circles. The standard form for the equation of a circle with the center at the origin is x squared plus y squared is equal to r. So r is the radius of the circle. Okay, so if we take the square root of the right hand side, we know how big the radius is. So r squared here. Take the square root of that number and give you the radius. Notice that both the x and y terms are squared. Okay. Linear equations don't have either the x or the y term squared. Parabolas have only the x term squared or only the y term squared, but not both. Let's look at the equation x squared plus y squared equal to 9. Okay, the center of the circle is at the origin in this case, and the radius, this is r squared, so r is 3. So when you graph it, the center is going to be at the origin. Then you count over 3 places: north, south, east, and west. Here. There's your circle. So, okay. Now this is the form here when the center is at the origin, so don't forget that. Now if the center of the circle is not at the origin, you have an offset for the center in the form of a minus h and a minus k. In this case, the center of the circle is at hk, and the radius is going to be r is squared here. So in this case, given this information, identify the center and the radius. So here, minus 3 and a minus 1. So your h and your k. So the center of the circle, hk, is at 3, 1, and the radius is 4. Notice that when we get to the center here, it's the opposite sign of what went in. It's the opposite sign here. See, you have a minus 3, but it comes out a positive 3. Here you have a minus 1, it comes out a positive 1. It goes back to the nature of the formula here. And there's the graph of it. If you take the equation of a circle in standard form, for example, here. Now notice in this case here, we have x plus 2. But the nature of the formula, it should be subtractions on both. So you'll be righted with the subtraction showing. So it's really x minus a negative 2. In this case here, the center of the circle here is a negative 2, 4. And the radius, r squared, is 2. R squared here is 4. R is 2. But so far, the equation we've seen, we're not in standard form, but what if it's multiplied out? Foiled out. Like this. So what we end up doing is grouping here the x and y terms. Moving everything to one side in descending order. And combining like terms, we have something like this. Okay. So we have here x squared plus y squared plus 4x. Minus 8y plus 16. So I think that's a typo there. well, no, plus 4 and a 4 there. They end up adding out. 4 minus 4 there. Makes that 0. So we got our like terms. We have this here. So I'll rewrite it. I have x squared plus 4x plus y squared plus minus 8y. And I move the 16 to the other side. We're going to complete the square. Now what you end up doing is seeing this x term here with the 4x. You take half of it and square it. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so you would add a 4 here. Okay, and then in this case here you have half of a negative 8. Half of a negative 8 is a negative 4, and negative 4 squared is 16. And what you add to one side, you have to add to the other side. Okay, so you don't forget to add to the other sides. So a 4 there. Okay, so like I said before, you take the x term, cut it in half and square it. And then here you have this y term, you cut it in half, negative 4 and square it. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And you can simplify it down a little bit. Okay, you know, with a 4 here, plus 16 and a minus 16, a 4 here. And you factor this out and put it in factor form. So, what two numbers when I multiply? When multiply to give me a 4, but when I add the two factors to give me a 4. 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. So that's how you would look factored. In this case here, what two factors when I multiply them would give me a positive 16, but when I add them give me a negative 8. A negative 4. Negative 4 plus a negative 4 is a negative 8, but when you multiply them, they give you a 16. And that's back in standard form. We can identify what the radius is. We can identify what the center of the circle is. Let's look at some examples here. Find the equation of the circle with center 0, 0 and a radius of 7. 0, 0 and 7 here. And end up with this here for our equation of the circle. Find equation of the circle with the center 0, 0 that goes through a particular point. Okay, so the center is at 0, 0. We have this equation here. Okay, so in this case the radius can be found. We can plug in here. Minus 1 squared minus 4 squared equals r squared. So we have 1 plus 16, which is 17. So r squared is 17. So we have x squared plus y squared is equal to 17. Find equation of the center of a circle with the center at negative 2, 5 and with a radius of 6. Okay. So here, sub into our HK formula. You can see where it formed. If we clean this up here, minus a negative becomes plus a positive. And that's this answer here. That's our equation in standard form. Find the equation of the circle with the center at 8, 2 and go to a point 8, 0. So you can plug in here. It goes to the center at 8, 2. So you plug in there, you can see that. Alright, and now we have to find out what r is. So it goes to a particular point, 8, 0. So we can plug in. You can plug in this point for x and y and find r squared. We plug in here. And we solve it for r squared, which is 4. So we know what r squared is now. And that's the equation. Identify the center and radius and sketch the graph. Get in standard form. We want to change the coefficients to be equal to 1, so we divide through by 9. Okay. And this, if you remember, this is r squared. Okay. So our center is at 0, 0, and the radius is the square root of this, which is going to be 8 over 3. You can graph it. And there's our graph. Identify the center and radius and sketch the graph. So you can see here, we have a -4 and a +3, and there's a radius is 5. -4 and a +3, and the radius is 5. That's the advantage in setting. This is standard form. So you can see there where the center is, and radius is +5. You can count over and then sketch the graph. Find the center and radius of the circle. Okay, so in this case it's already multiplied out. So we have to group our x and y terms here. So I moved the 3 to the other side, and I got my x and y terms together. And I'm going to go ahead and complete the square on the x squared and then on the y squared here. So half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9, so we will add a 9 there. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4 here. And what we do to one side, we do to the other side to keep it balanced. And you have the where factors of 9 add up to 3. So we're going to have x plus 3 squared, where factors of a -4 add up to 4, or -2. -2 times -2 is a +4. When you add them, they give you a -4. And you add these up to 16. So now you can see what your radius is and where your center is. So my center is at -3, 2, and the radius is 4. That finishes the presentation.